All right, so we should be live. We'll give a few minutes here. Let's see if people jump in. I know Instagram's about a 30-second delay because of the way that Instagram works. So if we see a question, it may not. It may just be an old one that we have to go through. But that's the chat. Okay, that'll get fixed here soon. And then I'll also have my chat open for everything else, so that if we miss anything. So let's see here.
Definitely just went live on my phone.
Yeah, I see live on USXBL, so that's good. Now let me check WC, and people are going to take a while to get into, so they'll uh they'll trickle
Funny,
in,
I can
trickle
see
in.
us live on the. I can see us live on my Facebook feed, but it's a little bit behind.
Yeah, me and you are going to be ahead, but as long as you see it there, that's fine. We're live on our main page, our YouTube page, and then I'm
It
just
looks like
sharing
we're
this.
on Facebook. We're at about an 8-second delay. It looks like.
Yeah, it's so I can catch it, right? Like if you say something bad, just
Too
kidding,
late.
you can catch it up.
If
Oh
you don't
man.
have your finger on the beep button the whole time, you've made some bad
Right.
choices.
Can you see the chat on your end, or does it say
Yeah,
connection reset? Okay,
Jason or JC, Mutiny, Robert Jordan, Justin
sweet,
Reed. Hey, Justin.
good. I'm glad that you can see it. For whatever
Big
reason,
Daddy
mine.
Cool, aka the Commissioner of Texas. We got to
Oh,
send a Starlink down to Robert so we can get him in on these.
hey, we can. They have the newer ones. It'll work for him. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, because I could get him in, right? I can invite him in right now, but if he's going to be Mr. Choppy, it might not be the best. It might not be the best thing right now. Um, let's see. Let me just check to see that Instagram looks good, and then we'll kick this off here.
Fix the webcast view. So the biggest issue, I see that comment on the side
Mhm.
that we run into with the view is just going to regional fields and having a pre-existing field setup and then having to go in there and tell the owner like, hey, we need to cut, bolt, and put cameras in your poles. It's a tougher one to do. I know Ryan, just to deal with that, has been testing massive tripods that go up above the net that are steady so we can have a steadier stream and then obviously go back and forth to the
Back to the feed.
drone and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I mean, there's 2 points, right? So one of it is picking where we're going to put the cameras correctly for the layout, right? Like we want to make sure we have
The layout that nobody
this
sees until Wednesday,
exactly.
even within our circle. Like that's another one
Exactly.
with blind layouts, right? Like we've heard in the past that so and such got the layout, which is just funny because even in years past, like first of all, WCPL, Thomas Taylor does not help anymore on WC layouts because his son plays Division 5. And I mean, Thomas is a straight edge dude and he understands the situation. And while he does help some on the USXBL layouts, we don't even touch those layouts until the sun has completely gone down in America Sunday night. And then we start putting ideas together. And just so people understand how we do it, we put the ideas together, we build the layouts, we have an idea of a layout, and we kind of go back and forth on it, sometimes an hour or two, whatever it is, changing what we think we need to change. And then when we feel good with it, we sit with it for 24 hours. That's myself and Thomas. And this is like the USXBL layout. The first one that we had where the snake had a break, the layout we played at the event had a break in the 50 snake. The first
Yeah.
one had no break in it.
Yeah.
And
Correct.
then as we went through it, after 24 hours of sitting on it, it was like, okay, and this is both as a back guy that's used to be a pro player and coach and owner and all that, and as a front guy that's a pro player, is that really what we want? So then we make changes on Monday into and there's times on Tuesday we're still making changes. I mean, Robert, our Bobby, Alicia, Juan, and our setup crew usually get the layout Wednesday morning as they're headed to the field to set it up. Like that's how the layout situation goes. So when we go to the camera situation, even in our own organization, Ryan's asking, like we have chats, right? There's a me, Big Trey, and Ryan chat, which is probably the most top secret chat that we have in our
It's just
group.
full of memes. I don't even think we talk business. It's just a bunch of memes.
And the star.
Yeah.
And but like even Ryan doesn't see it until Wednesday. So even if when it comes out Wednesday, Ryan gets a hold of it, like that WC layout, there was so much snake activity. There wasn't much that could be done for him on
Yeah.
views and all that. But 100%, we hear what you're saying. Listen, the webcast budget for, and it's not just our league, whether it's every other regional league, like last year, I saw people, and we heard people giving Bunkerfest a hard time. And it's like, Chris said it the best. You know what I mean? He's like, I don't get paid anything for this. I pay to do this, to highlight what we're doing, and people still aren't happy about it. And you kind of come to the end of it. I mean, and Ryan knows the numbers of what it costs. I mean, what does it cost to pay somebody these days? I'm
Oh
talking
man.
somebody that understands a computer like yourself, AFG, all the guys out there.
Yeah.
It's just not a cheap, even, like guys like Robert in Texas. When Robert doesn't ask to get paid or want to get paid, but if we cover a hotel room, it's still a $400 or $500 bill right there. And when you're running on $1,000 entry fees or $800 entry fees, there's just not a lot of money to do it. So
Yeah, it all
that's
adds up.
not, we hear what you're saying. I think if Tracy, being the person with her hand on the purse strings here, allowed Ryan to go wild, I mean, it would be it'd be a lot of gear we'd be buying, but it's just $100,000 would go quickly. And I still don't know how great a product we would have. So just
Yeah, it's because you always got to have those extra variables of people, right?
on the
That's the big
webcast,
thing.
I mean, every field has a hot spot shooting, bouncing data out 4 fields. I mean, it adds up. And,
Yeah.
we didn't know at event one WC, how many gigabytes of data. I'm on Sunday at 9 a.m. driving to the local Verizon store, having them up all of our plans, another 50 gigs or whatever it was, just to be able to make sure we can get all the data out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we hear you. We're absolutely trying, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, we're testing some stuff, and I think next event we're gonna have a better angle to be at least to be able to see the full field for the ancillary fields, right? Field 2 and 3 and 4,
well, and on
and
one of the
then
comments here, like
yeah,
Brian Babin just said, get Starlink. We had 2 Starlinks, yeah.
yeah. So Starlink just again, I don't want to go too deep into it, right? But Starlink just has its own technical issues with streaming that is just not it's not
So if
sustainable
everybody
for
out
us.
there, and including our guys in Texas, back here in California, we have a field called Ambush up on the north side of LA, Glenn Forrester's field. You would think, I mean, it's on a hillside. You can almost see the ocean from there. You would think you would have good, decent cellular. And we literally, thank God, one of the events, we got in trouble with some of our sponsors because Field 4 had a Starlink out. And that was only because Matrix was set up with their truck and booth right next to it. And we tied into their Starlink to bounce it out. But when we went 300 yards across the parking lot, literally our cell phones don't get reception. Our Starlink didn't get reception. We've really tried it all. Like we've been using our phones as hotspots,
We bond
everything we
stuff
can.
together.
So
So
we have tried Starlink too. That's why I said earlier about getting Robert a Starlink, because we actually have had Starlinks that we sold because they just don't work that well.
yeah. So um, good things coming at least for angles for the field. I've heard some of the improvements, and we're making them. And then for the mainstream, I mean that's just a constant improvement. It's really just more getting more hands, and we're working on that. So we appreciate everybody tuning in, though, right? We had the biggest count. I actually counted between all 4 fields. I think we hit about 800 viewers between all 4 fields
At one
on
time.
Friday. Yeah, one time on Friday and Saturday. Yeah, once I put them all together. Which again, a lot of people don't know where to find those fields. It was kind of tricky. You got to go to YouTube and type it in specifically. That's hopefully going to be fixed to make it more accessible for everybody. But I mean, that was just the biggest number we've hit so far, which is great. It's getting to where we want it to be. But so let's dive into what we're really here to talk about today, which is kind of the state of the league and kind of a recap, right? So let's start with USXBL, right? It's 9 o'clock for them now. They're still probably draining their backyards with all the rain that was over there in Texas.
Brutal.
Uh,
Brutal.
so give us a quick rundown, Mike. I was there.
I thought
Event
our
one.
event went well. We had massive technical issues with our scoreboards. Just to be totally transparent on scoreboards, I believe our league owns 9 sets of scoreboards, main boards. So when we talk about redundancy, we have triple redundancy for fields. We have so many scoreboards. We leave our scoreboards that fit for them to use for their events, right? Like, we really have that many boards. But when Saturday morning came with the moisture, it was just catastrophic failure after catastrophic failure. And we 100% own that. Problem with that system, and I believe the NXL deals with it too. You've been to the NXL events, you see Oldest running down with a master controller, and I mean, they have issues there too. For USXBL to address that, Roderick is coming in, which is obviously NXL's, I believe, pro field scorekeeper. And the guy, I know Roderick from being a pro coach, and Roderick was the guy we deal with on the pro field. He was at WC for us as well. He will be dealing with the technical issues as far as USXBL goes and helping with that. So we believe that will help alleviate those issues. Besides that, I mean, I thought it was a good event. It's interesting because, a lot of people in Texas, and I'm totally okay with, if anybody ever wants to just reach directly out to me, please reach out to me. Like if you message the USXBL, it's either myself or Tracy responding, right? You see them, Ryan sees them, and this messages us like, hey, there's a message on there. But, Robert, and we're okay with Robert fielding it too, because we know Robert wants the best thing for Texas paintball, right?
Yep.
And we all want that for paintball. There was questions about the referees, and I struggle with that one, to be totally honest with you. Like there were some clips that have gone up and, reels or whatever you call them, and penalties that go up in the air, and people, you see these comments, right? And so here's an interesting one with comments. Like everybody's name that's in here, we see the comments on Facebook and Instagram. So a lot of times on APPA, I have an ability as a league to put in the first 3 letters of your last name and see if you've ever played. And it's very easy, right? HIN, right? Very easy. HIN, Michael Hinman, Bryce Hinman, whoever's played APPA, I have tracking on you. Yeah. The interesting part is legitimately 80 to 90% of the negative comments that most regional leagues get are from players that do not play in their league. They're just negative human beings, you know what I mean? And I understand probably because they've been losers their whole lives. That's what they have to do. But honestly, there were some comments that were taken down because the comments are so far off base from the truth. You know what I mean? If a bad call, I'm the first one to say, if it's a bad call, it's a bad call. There's a reason why when I have ref jerseys made, there's a number on the back. Because you as a player can come to me and say, hey, Mike, man, don't know you. My name's so-so. What's up? Number 17 over there sucks. And I'm not saying we can't go pull every ref on one complaint. But one thing I do know is that where there's smoke, there's usually fire.
Yeah.
And if, whoever, Elite from down south comes to me, or Balls Out, or Shut Up, We're Trying, or the Gateway guys, listen, I understand there's a lot of politics in Texas. There's a lot of politics everywhere. Same in California, right? I don't play the politics. I don't owe anybody. I'm not in anybody's back pocket. It's just not worth it to me. So for me, every team, whether you are D5 or D3 or Elite, you all have the same voice to me because I've been in your shoes and I've gotten bad calls. And again, any promoter that says there's not going to be bad calls this weekend is blowing smoke. There will be bad and tough calls. There's a reason we play a race to 4 and a race to 5 and all that. But to be fair, how I see it with the referees, I watch penalties come down, right? And I never in the middle of the game do I jump in the middle of it and say, hey, how Timmy, Bobby, Justin, whoever it is, Justin Reed, Bradford, whoever it is, why did you make that call? I let the point, like you guys should as coaches, be over. And I ask him, hey, man, that guy Polito got shot. You threw a major. What was it? Well, he was hit on his right side. He eliminated this player right here. That's what the referee saw. That's why the penalty came up. Okay. I'm not saying I always agree with it, but there's a reason to why the calls come down. And same with USXBL. I sat up there on Roberts Field. I sat up on Lone Wolf and on the Violence Field asking why penalty, because you never know a penalty is going to go up until it goes up. And then when it does, you ask afterwards how it happened. And I can honestly say from my point of view, there wasn't one of the penalties that went up where you're like, that's just a bad call, man. You know what I mean? Most of them was like, maybe that was the best perspective, and it's the right call to make.
Yeah.
I mean, I know on WC, which then gets piped over to the USXBL with the whole interweb thing being connected, is, we've been putting shots out there of the rule book. Like if you're eliminated and you can see the hit and you ask for a check, it's a penalty. That is the rule book. Now listen, at USXBL and WC, both being separate, we have the ability, if you play in our league, because you are not just, if you're part of the league, you're part of the family, we can take this to a vote. Like Matt from Jackpot didn't like that we didn't play for third and fourth last year. Cool, let's take it to a vote. It's a majority, and it was a heavy majority vote. So then it's very
Yeah.
simple, right? Like, we'll change the rule. We have no problem. But I think everybody should understand, you all come into a tournament Saturday morning or Sunday morning, Friday morning if you're at the NXL, and there's an understanding that the rule book is in black and white and it is written in pen and not pencil. We cannot just, because you're my buddy and FSU's got 6 teams in here and Mark Franz wants it like this. We can't just do it like that. If it is written in pen, it has to be done that way. And that's just the way it is. And if there's an issue, please come talk to me. The tough one that I run into, and I know every regional league, right? I've heard every regional promoter speak with the same frustration I have, is we all get home and nobody comes and talks to me about it. You know what I mean? And like, if we're talking about regional paintball, like, especially in Texas, it was Bunker Fest last year and people threw stones at Chris. Chris played in my league for a long time. Chris and I, at the end of the day, are still friends. Definitely had some difference of opinions in our friendship. But at least when Chris played in my league and he got a bad call, he would come right to me and say, it's a horrible call. I don't agree with that. You know what I mean? Respectfully, but, he voiced his opinion. A lot of the opinions that Robert ends up getting are people that never come talk to me at the event. We see each other face to face and they don't have anything negative to say, but then they get home and it's like, well, this happened and that happened and this happened. And I'm kind of, obviously, Ryan, you were part of the conversation with Robert. Like, I was kind of blindsided by some of the points because it's like, you didn't say anything. And he runs 5.
Yeah.
If a player drops a pod and it burst open, he runs 5 feet. Pods are disposable equipment. You can run 100 feet. The only difference is, you're not eliminated. But if the pod gets shot and you pick it back up, then you are eliminated. And we had that on the violence field with the Bricktown Buck guys. We watched one of their guys win a point. He's super hyped up. I think they went 1-3. It was their 4th game. They finally got the dub. They were excited. And I watched the guy before he hit the buzzer start picking up pods. And I'm sitting up in the score booth like, oh, Lord, this guy's going to pick up a hit pod. And there's a ref watching him there. And then when he actually picked all the pods up in his jersey, went and dumped him on the live field by his pit so his pit guy could get him easier. And when he dumped him, even the ref, which was Juan at that point, looked at the pods and he's like, I don't see anything with a hit on him. Nobody saw him pick up a hit. But after the game, the coaches from the other team said that the pods were hit. Refs on the pickup and the drop didn't see it. And that became a thing. And I just got to be totally honest. That's a super ticky-tack way to try to win a match, right? Like,
yeah,
if it's a one-on-one and you beat me, I'm going to let you go hit that buzzer and give you 5 because you beat me. I'm going to try to beat you next time, but that's part of the game. But again, watching it happen, and their coach came kind of like a dick and said, what rule book are you using? And I said, the one in Swahili, duh. Like, well, fuck. What rule book are we using? Like, for me, I leave it to the refs. You don't see me go in there. One time, just to be very clear, in 16 years, which was last season, I overturned a call. And I also got rid of the referee that made the call because the call I thought was so bad.
It was egregious. Yeah.
It was egregious. And it was against a team from Hawaii. And the guy came to me and said, hey, man, we're already out of the tournament. But that was a bad call. Mike Eckhart came to me and I got rid of the ref over it. So just so people understand, and I also think it's part of the culture that we have in the game right now. It's always the referee's fault. And I just got to be honest, like, last year I was coaching Diesel for a couple events till I got the axe, right? Before that, I had my own pro team Aftermath. Ask Ahau and all those guys if I ever once used a 4-letter word at them. Was ever anything, whether we went 1-3 or 3-1, you got the same attitude out of me. I would always ask for clarity on a call. Like, why did you make the call? They would explain it. I'd go to my players. That's the end of it. So when it comes to the referees, that's where we're at. You know what I mean? If you have an issue with a referee or you think somebody is a weak referee, please come talk to me. And again, I understand this, in every region of America, there's local refs that are NXL guys that are used. A lot of you guys know them. If you believe there's an issue with somebody, please come talk to us before the match, not after the match. Do you agree?
I agree.
And, like Jaybird Sal said, don't leave it in the ref's hands. I mean, come on, guys. If you're a fan of the game, I'm not talking about your games because, of course, you played perfect. But go watch somebody else's games and tell me how a referee, short of just wiping goggle hits off, how a referee could script out the insanity that teams are going to do, starting with 6, up 3-on-1, running to their death. Like, referees just sit there, I think, and shake their head. Do the refs have a horrible job? Of course they do. They get paid $200 a day to stand on their feet 10 to 12 hours and get shot a couple hundred times and MF'd into the ground while they're at it. There's no other sport that referees have as hard a time. I think they're doing truly the best job they can. I know at USXBL we had 10 plus refs on every single field. Just, it's an expensive line item, and we're all doing the best we can to absolutely provide the best quality product. And to be, I honestly felt after the USXBL, my drive home from Texas to California, I wasn't thinking about the referees, to be honest, because it wasn't like, man, that was horrible calls. You know what I mean? I felt very good about it. So when it comes to refs, if you're somebody that doesn't feel that way, and I totally respect that, please come talk to me. Like, please, because at the end of the day, we're all competitors in this game, right? As much as we're friends off the field, when we go through that net and the 90 degrees turns and we're looking end zone to end zone, we want it to be fair. If we were out in a bowling league, we would want it to be fair, right? You stepped over the line, whatever it is, we want it to be fair. Come talk to me about it. Please come talk to me before we get to the end of the tournament and nothing can be done. If you really feel that referee is out to get you, please, 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 please come get me for your game. I will watch your game. 100%. I will watch that referee personally. And if I ask teams on the West Coast, I've fired refs right on the spot for being D-bags.
Yep.
No problem doing it. You know what I mean? We can't, you're my customer. And also I've been in your shoes. So I want to try to make sure this is as fair as possible. But
so we got a question here, Mike. Was it decided if it will stay a race to 4 or will it go to Mercy by 4 for USXBL? I believe he's referencing the Elite division with the Mercy 4.
Well, we posed the question for every division all the way down. And there were some good points made. Christian from the Titans with their second win in a row. Way to be, guys. They don't play our league anymore, but way to be with it. He had some good points on it. I don't think we've come to a conclusion. I thought one thing, and I believe Christian said it, and I did appreciate the perspective on it, was maybe keeping it Mercy, but also possibly going to overtime, because overtime does nobody any good. Just to be clear, if you win a match, I play Ryan wins. He gets 5 points for the win. If Ryan and I play each other and we tie, we each get 1 point for the tie. So 2 ties means you get 2 points. 1 win is equal to 5 points. Ties do nobody any good. And when you see teams that have like semi-pro, I saw a couple teams, or D2 maybe, at the NXL that had 2 ties each. I'd rather just flip a coin for it and give you the win, because it's not going to help either of us make Sunday usually. So that's where we're at. We will definitely pick that up this week and make a decision on it. The Elite, I'm not against them having the Mercy. The negatives that were brought up was that it's going to cost more paint. And for sure, if you're playing a Mercy game and you play a 5 to 6 match, you will probably shoot more paint than in a race to 4. My other side of that coin is we've already paid to be there. What if OT was one-on-ones? We've already paid the money to be there. I would much rather play paintball while I'm there. But if you guys want to keep it Mercy, it doesn't hurt our schedule. Let's just put it like that. Yeah. It actually helps us.
And Sheldon brought up that OT one-on-ones. What do you think about that? Just making overtime one-on-ones immediately.
I wouldn't be again. I mean, that's, again, I think something we would have to leave to the players for a vote. Right? It would have to be. I mean, just the NXL rule right now is a 5-minute point, and then it goes to a one-on-one if nobody wins in 5 minutes. We would love to get it done as quick as possible, because it just hurts our schedule, right? 5 minutes plus 2 minutes of break time, then one-on-ones. All of a sudden, it's an extra 10 minutes. It just slows the field down. Luckily, at FIT, we have lights on the center, but we would love to get it done as quick as possible. It's just quality of the game, right? You're in a tied game. Clearly, you're right in it. And then you end up getting knocked out, and maybe you did get a bad call. Maybe whatever happens, somebody made a mistake and you're neck and neck, and now both teams, nobody comes out with a dub. It just doesn't help.
Correct. Let's jump into this is a question for locations, right? We can start with USXBL and then do WC. Locations for event 3 for both.
I mean, event 3 USXBL has always been San Antonio. 100%. I haven't talked to my friend Alex lately. We've talked with Jeff. I know Greg Pauly and us obviously still have a great relationship, even though he's not directly working with the league this year. He's our GI guy down there. And I believe X Factor is supposed to, as I was told a couple of weeks ago, start breaking ground on field 3, which is part of the hyperball field, I believe, is going to be field 3. So as long as that is on track, that's where we go. After that, you know, there was talk about us going to Giant. We are still not against, again, as much as like the Fit is going to be our home, and I see Fit being our home for forever, right? Because JD, Sarah, and that family are great to work with. I don't know what else to say to anybody. If there's a problem, JD takes care of it. That's no negativity to any other field in Texas. It's just for me, when I have to travel 1,400 miles to get to a tournament and I have people that are willing to work with me and help me, and when I have a problem at 1 o'clock in the morning, gets in his car and comes down there, that's the kind of field owner I need. So, that's where we're at. Giant became an issue, to be totally honest. It had nothing to do with the Bunkerfest, Chris, me, USXBL situation. It really came down to Giants' point of view in regards to media, and that if any media shot there, they believe they have rights to it. It puts us as a league right in the middle of something we do not want to be in the middle of. You know what I mean? I'm not a lawyer. I don't want to be in the legalities of it. And from both sides, people start talking about hiring lawyers and suing people. I cannot be in the middle of that. So that's kind of where, is Wasteland too small? No, we talked to Wasteland last year. Let's be totally transparent about this. We started messaging Wasteland months in advance before World Cup. And we were told, let's talk next month. And let's talk next month. And let's talk next month. And then World Cup came. I didn't go to World Cup. I don't have a need to go to World Cup, to be honest with you, right? I run my league. I wish the NXL well. We stay away from their dates, but I don't need to go to World Cup. When they wanted to talk at World Cup, and it's like, there's really nothing to talk about. Are you going to have a third field, parking, air, right? These are some simple bullet points every league, not even my league, every league needs. And they just didn't seem overly interested in it, and we moved on with it, right? Please no Houston events. Well, I mean, to be totally fair on USXBL, we plan on being in Houston. It may be later and not sooner, but I mean, that triangle, you have to respect down south. You got to respect Houston and Dallas, right? I see if Houston can get a place where we can hold an event, we will absolutely be in Houston by next year, right? We'll still be in Dallas for a minimum of 2 events, San Antonio there, and we may expand further out. So,
Stay tuned for that.
where we can do events, I think you got to look at the other side of it. Where can you do events? Like, where can you really do an event, right? How many
at our size, right? Because we could run a a D4 D5 event at some local field that's got 1 or 2 fields, but that's not what we're about, right? Like we're truly trying to grow paintball, and we have the amount of teams that we have, and the growth is going. You don't want to kind of go back on it.
Again, like there's a point in here, and we obviously have to keep this thing moving forward to not just blow the whole night. But a pod got hit, the player got called. I mean, there's a lot of perspective in there, right? Like if you get hit in the pod and drop it and you're holding it and there's a hit on it, it's a gross major. To say that, it was done because you were throwing it and it got hit after you threw it, and again, if that happened, come grab me. I will get the head ref and the ref that made the call. It's going to have to be in between match times to explain what they said. I'm not expecting you to agree with it, but man, I got to be totally transparent. A lot of these calls that people are talking about, when you ask the referees and other referees that saw it, you get multiple referees that have a much different perspective than the player telling it. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just giving you a perspective of what the referee is seeing. And I mean, unless we have concrete evidence that did not happen, I can't just go overturn a call. You know what I mean?
And if I could jump in too, Mike, I think the other thing too that happens a lot in our league, why refereeing gets so controversial, is we have people that are filming, right? So they're filming very tight angles from weird angles that refs aren't standing at, right? Because we're always trying to get it away from the refs as videographers. So you're seeing, cameras that are slowed down to like 120 frames a second, super slow mo. They're catching everything, but the ref is not there seeing it at 120 frames a second. You know what I mean? So I
Totally.
think that's the other thing that gets taken out of context a lot is, look, that wasn't really a penalty. Like I didn't get shot and moved. It's you're looking at a very specific point in time through a camera that a ref is not looking through.
Totally. I mean, and we go back and watch video footage. We have a ref group for USXBL and WCPL, more of a message board like, hey, if you want to work the event, let us know. If you're a ref, we put you in there. But there's also video that we see and we put it back in there in training purposes, right? And talk about what we see and what went wrong. And this guy cheated. I mean, WC, there's multiple videos of guys cheating. You know what I mean? And clearly it just showed us we're going to have to continue to ratchet it down. And then I got dudes like one of the idiots from the BTA Butchers saying the refs are trigger happy. And then there's videos of guys like Cartel getting hit, sliding it off. Clearly they weren't trigger happy enough, And when we make the announcement that we're going to pay $10,000 for first place at Premier at WC, which will then make it the highest paid division in paintball, I'm sure the cheat meter is going to go up and the referees are going to have to get even more strict. And that's just I mean, man, again, I can only speak about Notorious FSU. Before that team went pro, they came out to WC. They had a very skeleton squad. But every time those dudes got hit, they ran off the field. And like the first time we saw it, we're like, what the fuck is that guy doing? You know what I mean? And then point after point, when guys would get hit, they wouldn't even ask. They would just run off the field and call themselves hit. And the refs are kind of looking at each other like, is this really how the game's supposed to be? And I think that's a culture issue in the sport of paintball, is there's just a lot of guys that cheat at practice and they get to the tournament and think they can get away with it. And the refs catch them and they don't like that. And it's the referee's fault. I've never seen a call come down from a referee to when that guy walks in and tells his coach what happened, that big of a difference in what really happened and the story he told. Like, I have a 3-year-old daughter in this house. She doesn't tell stories that are that big of tales. I mean, she's got chocolate on her face. She clearly ate the candy bar. She didn't do it. That lie doesn't equal the lies that we see in paintball. So until people can become a lot more honorable about the game, I think we're just going to keep suffering the same situation.
Yeah.
That deals with that.
Let's get to this other question. I didn't want to miss it for Josh. He said if there are any plans for future of bringing USXBL and WCPPL together, like a Las Vegas event or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great to, right? The biggest issue I think we run into with that is just one, Vegas. Craig Ranch is 27,000, whether it's WC USXBL, whether it's NXL, whether it's MVPS, MSXL, Bunker, anybody who does it, Craig Ranch is an expensive venue. It's also an expensive venue for a piece of grass that is more dead than any grass I've ever seen. I just
And
don't see
lumpy.
the value in that. You know
And
what I
lumpy.
mean?
Yeah, I mean there were guys, in pillboxes shooting up, at the Dorito corner, and yeah, it looked like Iwo Jima. Not Iwo Jima. Yeah, it looked like Iwo Jima. Just people up on the top, just shooting down.
I don't see that right now, right? Like, I don't see the value in that. But of course, we would love to get it together. And I think the problem we run into with that and getting them together is just, where's the location, right? Do we expect the Texas teams to fly to California, Cali to fly to Texas? If that happens, it's probably got to be in Dallas, right? Obviously, if we do it on the West Coast, anywhere that you can get into LAX, because they're just cheap flights in and out of those airports, right? I think you got to look at things like that. So I think that's how it would be. Obviously, this year, that's not going to happen. Next year, I mean, another issue we just run into is like USXBL, we have the Elite, which is ultimately D3 on steroids. And then we have at WC, the Premier Division, which is semi-pro, right? And there is such a difference between those two divisions. So I still think Texas is probably a couple years behind. I mean, we have 20 premier teams, 20 semi-pro teams playing in a month at WC. Chris did a great job with it, right? He offered a ton of money there and couldn't get the teams. I think a lot, Shut Up, We're Trying, Texas Demolition, a lot of your top-level Texas teams are semi-pro and they're committed to the NXL, and we don't want to take those teams away. Same with like the Premier Division at WC. Our goal of that is high quality reps at low price, right? Like we want to have the cheapest per point per rep, however you want to call it, so teams can afford to do it. And if teams graduate and move up and play NXL, we welcome it. So that's where we're at with that. As far as the weather in Texas, I mean, I know Tom catches hand grenades. Man, people ask me how would I have handled it. Well, let me just put it like this. If I was in Tom Cole's shoes, I would take them off because like I wouldn't want that job. I mean, I can tell you this. Tom's a smart dude. And Tom and I have had talks, and we still have talks. And when I hear Tom speak of things, there's never been a time Tom's talked about something where I've been like, he didn't think that one through. Like he has put a lot of time into it. And, things get missed, like last year or the year the hurricane hit World Cup. There hadn't been a hurricane in November in many years, you know what I mean? And then one spins off late, F's up their event, and Tom's got to do the best he can, and he does do the best he can. No matter who it is, like people think like down with the NXL, which again, I've always been against the addition by subtraction mindset. Like I would never want to be that guy. I would never want to be number one because you have nowhere to go but down, and people are just going to throw stones at it. So I think Tom's doing the best he can. Let me ask you the other side of that. Would you guys be okay if Tom Cole got a field in Texas, like Fit or whoever it is, Geo's Field or whoever it is, to put in 6 or 7 turf fields and then go hold an NXL event for $2,800 or $2,700 entry fee at one of those fields that are on turf with 6 inches of crushed base under it. So when the water hits it, it can quickly move out and we can still play through it. Because if you guys are okay with that, please tell Tom. I'm sure Tom would much rather spend his money building out facilities that in 3 years will be paid for, and he doesn't have to pay all the money and deal with what they're dealing with.
Semi trucks, all that.
Yeah, I mean, and people said like go to Phoenix. So what's he going to do? One in Vegas and one down in Phoenix? You talk about California. As I understand it from because I used to be in all the year-end meetings at PSP, there was major environmental impact issues, and California's laws are way too crazy that they were still getting fines 10 years later. Even after the league was shut down, there's still fines coming from the Pomona Flareplex for the damage that was done and paint that was left and stuff like that. I wouldn't hold an event if I was them in California. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So
what about Huntington, Mike?
Yeah, Huntington, everybody can do Huntington. It's legit $500,000. And also Tom's gear wouldn't work there. And what I mean, he doesn't have turf, so you'd have to go buy turf. The poles he has won't work because they screw into the ground. You got to use those stanchions, the tripod that comes out. It's expensive. Yeah, HB sounds so affordable. Like you would have to, I don't even know how you could run it. And, like you can only run like 12 to 14 teams a day per field. Right. So like even a 3-4 day event, I don't see how that one makes any sense.
Yeah.
I don't think you ever see it.
Yeah. Paul Yun in the chat from Violence says, you got to do a WC and a USXBL final prize pool combined. And then winner takes all for those divisions again, which would be great. But like you said, I think Premier is really great in California, and in Texas, it's just kind of slowly growing that base up.
I think the way it's got to probably happen on that championship wouldn't be that everybody, like WC, we have 120 or 130 teams signed up for the next one. X-Ball
157.
Teams.
Yeah, X-Ball teams. Yeah.
But to require them all to go to Dallas doesn't make as much sense. If you're in 29th place in D4, to make them go doesn't make as much sense. I think something like Meter tried to do with the Astra thing probably makes the most sense. Whether it's, the top 10 teams from Texas, the top 10 from California, plus possibly a couple more spots that could be added in, like if you've won an NXL or something like that, or possibly even add some sponsor exemptions. If Carbon has the Missouri All-Stars or Fear, or whoever it is, they could send one of their flagship teams in, people that have helped financially support the vision that we all have. But doing something like that with a big prize pool at the end, and prizes are tough too. What do you do a big year end, or do you do it? More teams will win events than win championships, right? So do you do more money like WC? We're now going to make the announcement that we're going to $10,000 for first place at the next event. Do we keep it where it was and add those extra couple thousand at the end of the year, give away 10 or 15,000 to one team, or do you spread it across multiple teams? So I think that's the question we all have, right? I think everybody out there can put themselves in the promoter shoes, and I think that's the question. So I think as time goes on, Ryan, we've talked about it. Tracy, the three of us have talked about it at length, trying to do a big one-off. But you also run into issues, right? Like we talk about politics. The second we do anything with three letters that start with P, end with O, and have an R in the middle, we're going to go to war with the other big guy. You know what I mean? And we do not want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, because that was going to be another question that somebody messaged me. Is they asked, do you ever have any ideas of bringing like a pro-am to one of the final events of the year?
Yeah, I don't really care as much about the pro division, right? Like I don't. Yeah. It's my friends are all there. I love those guys, and it would be cool to see it. It's just at the end of the day, I'm focused on the people that make this thing go round. You know what I mean? And it's always been the divisional players and giving them the best event weekend. So the here and the now, I mean, and the truth is, man, those top 5, 6, 7, 8 teams in the pro division are going to wallop you guys. And maybe some teams want to get beat up by those guys. But after the first time or two, it's going to get real old real quick when Dynasty runs through you, or Fit runs through you, or whoever it is runs through you. So for me, it's, man, we know it's a pyramid in paintball. And there's so much focus on that little top of the pyramid, the star on top of the tree. I'm worried about them bottom layers, Chris from APPA said a number that people that play the first season of paintball, over 50% of them don't play the second season, right? So as much as we want to get corny and use words like grow paintball, like how about we retain paintball?
Yeah, retain.
Because that seems
to make that a shirt,
truth, right? Like that is what we have to do. And another number is the D6 3-man thing, right? Like lowest number that they've seen, and MSXL was the first one. You got to give Aaron Bennington credit for it. He was the first one that started doing it. The least amount of players he saw become D5 X-Ball players next season was still over 50%. Right? So if we want to talk about how we're going to grow this industry, very simple. You do D6 3-man for free. That's how you have to do it, right? Get guys in, get them part of this, get them bumping shoulders with all of you guys that are out there.
Yeah.
Let them feel like they're part of it, right? And then watch when 60 or 70% of those 3-man teams become X-Ball teams the next year. And, like in Texas, I think, Shut Up has done a great job. Everybody has. Let's not exclude anybody. Team like Gateway, right? John over there that used to be a WC guy and now is a Texas guy running Gateway. He's bringing new people in the door. So I think that absolutely has to be the number one priority. And I don't see how anybody's not just smashing the red button on the table, stopping the all stop button, focusing on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, and on the retained paintball thing, I'm 16 years, man. I've seen dudes that were here 15, 16 years ago take 10, 12 years off, and now they come up, they're like, hey, man, you remember me? And I'm like, I recognize your face. I just don't remember your name. You know what I mean? Well, it's been 16 years, and now I'm back. You know what I mean? People love paintball. We all love paintball. As much as we get frustrated with paintball, we all come back to it, right? Nobody leaves for forever. But how do we make this game where people aren't getting so frustrated,
Yeah. Yeah, and Thomas kind of harked back to that again, not to get back off topic, but Thomas said bring top 4 teams from each regional series to battle it out at the end.
Yeah,
he said bring in
again, I think
MSXL,
NXL should be doing that, right? I think everybody should be going to World Cup at NXL. So for us right now, it's more, with the Texas and the Cali thing, there will be something next year, I believe. I just exactly what it looks like. I think, Ryan, did I message you a night or two ago with an idea that was completely out of left field?
Man. I mean, you can bring it up, but it was insane. It was cool. Sounds really cool. I know, I think Thomas Taylor would love to bring his points back to come do it, right? Like he wish he could drop his APPA and come back and do it.
I had a pro player that I helped build that plays on a team that did really bad, and he sent me a message and he goes, well, if we keep doing as bad as we're doing, I'll be able to play WC again soon. So I coached him last year too. It was kind of a funny message that I randomly got, but yeah, I mean, I think, and we're stoked, right? Like Pole position came out to the last one. I believe the Academy D3 line is coming in for this next one. There are some West Coast teams that want to come play. And, I think it's how we all handle ourselves, right? Like Texas is Texas, right? Like, come take it. Like, these are men with pride. But, everybody's cool about it. The pole position guys are like, man, everybody was cool to us. I think there's a difference, right? Like, I'm a Chargers fan. You can be a Raiders fan. I don't have to be like this to your team, right? I can say go Chargers and you can say go Raiders, and we can have a mutual. My girlfriend, like Tracy, loves the Raiders. I don't know why anybody would like them, but I'm not going to say fuck the Raiders. I'm just going to say go Chargers, right? And I think in paintball, as long as we can keep it somewhat classy and just not be dirtbags about it, we can start opening those doors up where people want to go to other regions and they're welcomed in other regions. And, maybe Texas is the greatest region, right? Like, let's get everybody out there and let's see if it really happens.
Yeah.
So,
looking.
how do I feel about the APPA point system where D5 to D4 is only 100 points? Most players in D5 that do horrible still get promoted up that aren't ready. Should we bump that to 150 if possible? Well, Josh, the problem you run into with that, how about this, Josh? If we were to move the D5 threshold up from 100 or whatever it is now to 150, would you be okay if we removed all cash prizes out of D5 and just gave paint and entries away? Because a couple seasons ago, you may have heard there was a team that purposely scumbagged out on it and made new APPA profiles and sandbagged the whole season. And when I confronted the owner about it, one-on-one at the second event of the year in Phoenix, I said, hey man, Division 5, that's a little tough. It's like teams like the Titan guys, right? Imagine if they were trying to go do D5 and I'm like, Christian, fucking D5, man. And the guy said to me, hey bro, a win's a win. And I said, not in D5, it's not, right? And this team did that. But the problem is if you put so much money down low, right, you are practically paying people to sandbag that division. So while I have no issue moving some points, but then, so are we now saying Division 5 becomes a 2-year process? And if we do that, realize there's going to be first-year teams coming into Division 5 that are just going to get beat up. And again, let's remember the number I gave you. Half of the people that play their first season of X-Ball don't play the second season of X-Ball. So if we do that, you now realize there's probably going to be a lot of teams when the year 1 low-end teams have to play the year 2 D5 teams that are probably going to get 0-4 or 1-3. Watch whether it's USXBL or NXL teams that consistently go 0-4. Show me how many of those teams play all the events, 4 or 5 events in a season. They don't. They just drop out and stop playing paintball. So I do believe Division 5 should be as soft as possible. When we all show up, all of us that are seasoned vets in this, Texas, California, Florida, wherever you're from, we should all show up to event 1 next year looking at D5 like, who the fuck is in D5? Because we don't know who's in D5, right? We kind of know some of the cold-blooded and some of the shut up, we're trying 3-man teams are there, but we really don't know who's going to win, right? That's what we should be seeing. Because if we know, oh man, the shut up, we're trying D5 team gets their second year in D5, I just don't see how that helps grow paintball and retain paintball for sure. Again, I think you have to kind of look at it from the macro and realize that D5 is going to be a 1 year, you're in, you're out, and now you're up to D4. And D4 is going to be a large division, right? And if you don't want to graduate up from D4 because you're not good enough, that's great. Don't, like, no matter where we set these bars short, there's going to be a division at some point where a lot of teams are going to stack up, and that's okay that it happens in Division 4. Right. And then if you really want to be good, then you go up to Division 3, right? That's where it really starts getting more money and more talent and higher level and technical games. But I just think if we allow, I saw a D5 team that went to play 5-man in Texas from California, and there's 3 dudes on that team that I can name that have guaranteed played for 10 years. I just don't see how that helps paintball.
Yeah.
I don't, man. I don't think that's good. I don't think that's good for the game. That year that team cheated, nobody's going to talk about all the other good games that were had that year. They're only going to point their finger at the cheating.
Yep. So I got 2 questions from Instagram. First one is, have you ever thought about sponsoring a mini tournament at the big scenario games to encourage wood ball and speedball crossover, super game, living legends. So have you ever thought about hosting a small little mini tournament there to kind
No,
of
I
get some of
haven't
those
thought of
games?
doing that. Would we do it? Absolutely. We would rather see this is both the WC and USXBL hat on or shirt on at least. That we would rather see local fields doing that. Like we know Outlaws got an event, I believe June 6th. Zones doing things out there. We would rather help the local regions with whether it's some kind of prize that comes from USXBL. Listen, we've also said this. If anybody in Texas or California wants to hold a D6 and even D5 3-man, but D5 doesn't really make sense because we don't have a D5 3-man, but especially the D6 and the young guns, we will sell you our medals at our cost. How much are our medals, give or take? Give or take $6 a piece. We will sell you USXBL medals for it, right? It'll have your at Outlaw Paintball or at Polito's Paintball or whatever field it is. We will absolutely contact us. We will absolutely there's some lead time on them, but whatever it cost us, we will give it to you at our cost. We're not trying to make money off of you. You keep all your own money. It can be a USXBL, WCPL sanctioned feeder league. We will absolutely help you with it. But again, I think everybody's got to stay in their lane, right? Like this is our lane. Me, Tracy, Ryan, like this is our lane. It's regional paintball. That's what we do. We don't want to be national, and we don't really want to have to be local. We want fit to do fit. We want giant to do giant. We want them all to do their own thing, and we want there to be growth in the game and people to make money or however. Because listen, 3-man, you're not going to make a lot of money, right? Like it's just not a ton of money, and I think that's why there's probably not a lot of 3-man, right? Because why? If you're only going to make $1,000 and maybe lose $1,000, right? Why are you going to do that? There's just not a lot of money. I think a lot of field owners are looking at how can I make money for dinner Sunday night? I need to make money now. I need to sell skids of paint. But if we really put a lot of focus and effort, where it jumps out to me is ASG, right? I go out there a
Yeah.
lot of weekends. Aftermath out there. Wayne is my friend. That's our home base in California, always will be. And right next to the tournament fields is a 12-foot net, and you see the walk-on players heading out to play walk-on. And here's my question for all of you out there. Do you think there's more high-end guns owned by us as tournament players that are being used every weekend, or more high-end guns owned by walk-ons? And if you stop and think that there's A&S is selling more of those guns, Lone Wolf is selling more of those guns to walk-ons, kids, and dads than tournament players, that tells us we have the ability to pull more people over here. We just don't have a format that they want to play. Because to be totally fair, X-ball is pretty intimidating, right?
Oh, very.
And
Very.
I'll be straight with it. Like in Texas, man, fit. I don't go down to X Factor a lot, but I know the teams down there are helping out, zone, everywhere. Like I don't think there's a bad vibe anywhere in the scene. But it's still, when you go out there and you see maybe San Antonio, right? You see the Titan dudes. I'm sure it's getting testy out there, right? Like it's spicy at an X-ball practice. I
Oh,
think a
yeah.
lot of those new players are just afraid to cross that threshold, right? But when we're practicing and I do the 180 and I look behind me and those kids are standing there watching us practice, that tells you they want to come over. It's just how do we get them over?
Yeah.
Josh, how
So
do I feel about going old school, semi-uncapped, no ramp? Listen, Josh, I'm going to say this for the last time to everybody. I lived in the days of semi-paintball. If you think anybody that ever won an NPPL 7-man didn't have cheater software in their gun, I'm telling you, the clear that Barry Bonds was on was juice, dog. I one time watched 3 teams at PSP Pomona and X-Ball load their Tadao boards with cheater software. And I was the next team in line to get my software. And when Will asked me what I want in my gun, the only thing I could naturally say back was better than whatever you gave them. So trust me when I say with the semi-auto, if we go back to that within 2 events, there's going to be dudes using 04 Egos with Tadao boards in them that go 22 balls a second, fully auto on the break, and you will not be able to catch it.
yeah.
Guaranteed. Like, so let's just end that whole talk.
So there was another question. You can just leave it off. You can just leave it off then. My son's over here turning off the lights. He doesn't like me having my lights on in the house. saving money. One of the questions was 10 man. Let's talk about 10 man for WC. Right, it's the hot topic. I see Alejandro from Golden State pushing it hard. You know, what do you think about 10 man and pump for WC and
Well, I mean,
USXBL?
10 man USXBL, I think Texas has a great footing with 10 man, right? Like there's one for some odd reason they put one the weekend after USXBL, probably going to hurt the numbers a little bit on both sides. But I think Texas has a great thing. I think Paulie and those guys are going to do a 10 man at the end of the year that's going to be NXL affiliated, right? Because that's kind of, I think there's only like one or two majors, and then the rest are affiliated NXL tournaments. I think everybody in Texas should absolutely support that event. I think this year at the last second, Glenn told us we couldn't use his field because of issues with his neighbor and his permit. There just wasn't a lot of big 10-man size fields. Like I don't envision 10-man being a 5-man field with an extra 10 feet wide and 20 feet long, right? Like that's not really a 10-man field.
Yeah.
So I do believe on the West Coast between Glenn and I believe SC Village is building hyperball and mounds right now. Like Geo seems to be just burning cash over there. Like he finally got the check in the mail from Obama. So if that's that, I'm sure we will have somewhere to hold an event on the West Coast this year after the season is done or, you know, whatever it is. Yeah, that's, you know, listen, I think 10 man's great. I wish everybody would come play it. They would have a ton of fun playing it. Problem is we have access to 120, 130 XBL teams and we struggle to get 30 10-man teams. And I would say 10 of those guys, 10 of those teams are probably old school teams that are playing. So we're really struggling to get 20 teams to play
The
from
newer guys.
XBL to 10-man. I just don't think, like I saw somebody mention like 7-man. I mean, just point out one 7-man that's had 20 or 30 teams at it in the last, I'll give you a decade. Like it's just as much as everybody said. And again, remember what I started this with? Vast majority of the comments that support something never play paintball. So they're the guys that are out there hyping it up, but they themselves will never go play. So I don't see a purpose right now.
Yeah.
I think the problem is I've been doing this for close to 30 years. It's a long time. And I've seen a lot of formats come and go. I went from the trees into the spool fields and into the hyperball and into the airball to where we are today. And I have never seen a format like X-Ball as we see it now and through its like revisions and mutations, if you will. I think we are going to have a hard time putting the toothpaste back in the tube on this one, man. I don't see right now, and I'm not saying it can't be done, but I don't see how we're going to get away from this. I think Tim Montresor, rest in peace, and our sport became definitely a notch less when we lost Tim. What he did and how hard he worked to build 10-man as like he did, and there was also guys at Lux that were helping him do it, but that was a unique situation, man. Tim was on the phone with people. I mean, he made that happen in 2-3 years, right? So that was a special thing. I think once Tim passed, a lot of people wanted to keep that ball rolling, but I haven't seen anybody really do it well yet. I know the NXL doesn't make a bunch of money at those events. They're a tough one. So yes, the West Coast will have it. I do believe Texas has it in the plans to have it. If they don't, obviously we will get involved with it. But again, that's not really my place, right? I don't jack of all trades, master of none, right? That's not what I want to be. I want to stick to what we do.
We got somebody ask. Yeah, we got somebody asking about will we ever get away from blind layouts? And I think, I mean, that's a flat answer. That's no, we'll always do blind
that's
layouts.
A crazy one, right? Real quick, too, right? Like, when we put that to a vote on the West Coast years ago, I really thought it was going to be 55%, 45%, one way or the other. Like it was going to be a close vote. It was 90% blind layout. And, you know, it's important I point this out. That shows me that my, you know, pointer was off on the game. What I thought people would want, they did. And we brought it up a year or two ago again, if we wanted to rethink it. And no, people don't want to rethink it. And I think the logic to it is quite simple. One, when we went away from coaching on the sidelines, we had a lot of really dumb paintball players, right? Because there was guys like myself that were in their year, up, down, left, right, shoot, go, right? And then once we got rid of that, we had a lot of young players that really didn't understand how to play paintball. So when we went to the blind layout after a couple seasons of it, now these D4, D5, D3, all the way up, you got to be able to walk a field and kind of understand this is where 5 guys can get to stay alive. This is what we do to put it together. And by the time we get to Sunday afternoon or Saturday afternoon, depending when your finals is, that game has evolved. The next part of it is fields don't stay as busy. And we have a blind layout at USXBL. I would bet Fit, X Factor, and all them are going to be busy the weekend before.
Yep. Be practicing.
And
because
also,
they need to practice everything.
Fields to put layouts up that are fun layouts, right? Like if you just have the same reheated layout 6 weekends in a row, people are going to get tired of it. That's why golf courses change where the putting green pin is, right? Where the hole is. They move it around all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not telling people how to do their business. I'm just saying, if you come up with a really cool layout and you're like, this is what we're putting up this weekend at whatever your local field is, there's hype to that. If people just want to say, hey, we have the same layout for 6 weekends, why aren't anybody showing up? Because they're tired of playing the same thing. Make it fun for them.
Yeah. I think to kind of just harp on Juan's question is, he says it's cool, but he thinks it's not fair that teams that have to travel don't get to see the layout as quickly as local teams in terms of having time to walk. But I mean, we released the layout is walkable the day before the event, and it's usually only about walkable for about 4 or 5 hours, right? We don't really, they're not there at 6 a.m.
I mean, I can tell you WC and USXBL, there wasn't people there Wednesday walking the fields.
Yeah.
USXBL is a Saturday, Sunday event, so there wasn't people there Thursday at all.
Friday. Mm-hmm.
They had night ball Wednesday. So to help that situation out, because of course everybody thinks fit teams get an advantage, which is the absolute loserest thing I've ever heard. We went out, field 1 and 3 were set up. The center field hadn't been touched. We took all the plugs out of every bunker. So if you could walk that field and figure out what was what, which again, JD and them put up caution tape, couldn't walk through it. And even if you sat back and tried to look at it, every bunker was flat on the ground. And it was nighttime. We did the best we absolutely could there. We didn't set the center field up. And then WC, we had a huge issue with that. SC Village set the layup out. Teams were going to get to practice it. And that's a rule we have. And I said, you're welcome to practice it. It just, you'll be disqualified on Saturday and we'll move on with it. And I started getting flamed from the son of the owner of it, which is funny because we used to be friends. And he started literally MFing me on the phone and I just slid it, deleted it, blocked it. And I guess I'm not part of the Jackson Club anymore.
Justin says he wants to watch you play a round of golf, Mike. So might have to take the drone out and some cameras and watch you play golf one of these days.
I'd definitely, if I didn't play paintball, I would have played golf. I tell Casey that all the time. I'd probably have a lot of broken clubs, or I would just be completely at peace with the world.
One question from Instagram was, what about true semi-pro? I don't know if that makes any sense to you. What would that
look like? Us allowing one more pro player to come over? I mean, I'm sure that's something we can put to a vote, because in semi-pro right now, I don't have the rule book in front of me, but I believe you're allowed 2 pro players. Right now, we only allow 1, and it's 8,000 and under. The reason we came to that number is on the West Coast, we started looking at Dynasty, Impact, right? Mouse, guys like that, Kyle Spick, all those guys. Do we want those guys playing in our league? And the answer is no, right? Because they don't need reps. And one guy becomes a serious game changer. 2 would definitely become a game changer. And it would also come down to teams that have a guy with money behind them can afford to pay Mouse $4,000 an event while the rest of us can't. And I just don't see how that helps grow it. So I'm not against doing it in the future, but it would have to be something the majority of our teams want to do. And there would have to be a need to do it.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine Marcelo and Tyler on Collision? Or something like that,
or TJ Bastards.
Yeah, or DJ Bastards. Yeah.
Right. It's just, I would rather the teams, same with the elite thing that we did, right? We didn't do that to stack teams up. We just did that so D3 teams don't get overloaded and have to move up to a Division 2 that we don't have a Division 2 to move them into in Texas.
Yep.
Yeah, no, and the fifth thing, my point of that is you just hear it, right? That there's like, and I heard it more last year that 5 teams would get the benefit of the call. And it's like, I'm watching Ahau and those guys make calls. I don't think in that moment they're looking at, oh man, that's so-and-so from Fit. It's like the dude got hit, came down and shot this guy. I mean, even like the Beefy Boys are from there. You see Timmy throw the one penalty on one of their guys, and everybody starts making bad comments. Well, that's, this is why I don't play paintball. It was a horrible call by the ref. I told Robert Jordan when I saw it, I thought it was a good call. I'm just not going to let comments sit on there that, like, if we're talking about something that's actually happening, let's talk about it. We can have a difference of opinion. I respect that. But when you're talking about, like, that was a bad call, if you had another eye, you'd be a Cyclops. Next. Dumb.
We got a question here. Any thoughts around USXBL event merch? I mean, I know I've brought up merch a lot. I think it's just getting something.
Yeah, just send
good to
Tracy a
post,
message.
right?
She gets these shirts made custom for you
Yeah.
at the mall down the street from my house. Shoot
I
a
mean, tell
side.
us. I mean, if you guys really want merch, right, you just kind of really got to tell us what you guys want so we can try to plan for it. I mean, that at the end of the day, I don't think I don't think that is the full business of the league, right? Like, we want to provide a great experience. We're not here to nickel and dime you for everything that we can get, right? Shirts,
Yeah,
t-shirts,
I mean,
everything. But
listen, we'll probably work with Max or, whoever it is to possibly just make simple league stuff. Absolutely, we're going to do that. Our big focus is, trucks, trailers, getting gear from event to event to event. You know what I mean? Has really been our focus, the logistics of it. And I'm sure we'll continue to polish it up as we go forward. So if people have ideas on that and what they like, of course, t-shirts, big boy stuff, let's make it happen. You know what I mean?
slides, right? Tracy likes slides.
Well, I mean,
uh,
referees. Let me just explain
yeah,
referees. Referees cost us more money than any other line, like any league, right? Prizes, what it costs to run it at the field, and referees, right? Our referee cost has gone up exponentially while we haven't raised the entries, but what, $50? I mean, I think WC, for instance, we flew in 27 referees. I mean, $200 a day is $200 a day. It's the rental cars. It's paying Timmy to be a shuttle driver to
flight.
LAX, flight cost, hotel rooms because people can't sleep in their own houses. It just becomes very, very expensive.
Yeah.
Period. So,
Yep. I mean, yeah. I mean, just kind of recap. So I know somebody asked about X Factor. Yes, the plan is for Event 3 to be at X Factor in San Antonio. That's where we're shooting for. Oh, someone asked, are we doing 3 days for X
I
Factor? We're
think
doing Friday,
Christian
Saturday,
asked that.
Sunday.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's something we're going to have to talk to the teams about, Christian. The heat's going to be the issue, right? Last year, we had coolers with water. We did everything we could. We had a kiddie pool ready to dump ice in it if somebody hit the ground. I think Colin had people up in the truck with him, cooling down. But the problem is it's just going to be hot. And as much as people think we should do tournaments in December or something like that, we just found out springtime in Texas isn't the greatest. Summer's brutal. You know what I mean? So, yes, I'm Christian on that. It would be logical for us to spread it where you could do two games, and then the finals. They got a call coming in from one of my old players, Derek Janish, right now that I can't answer. But yeah, but it would make sense. I would like to. It just comes down to people's work and I know school's off. Yeah, I mean, 4 matches in the heat is too much. I just don't know how else on 2 days. How do you do it? Right? I'm not being sarcastic. I'm just saying, do you do 4 prelims on the first day? Because if you do 3 and 1, the problem you run into if somebody goes 0 and 3, they will not show up historically for their 4th match. Just to get win or lose, they're already out of the tournament. So you either have to go 2 and 2 or 4 or no is the theory to that.
Germa the kid said, take away coaching and walking the fields.
Well, I think you still have to, but like the coaching thing, that's another one. Like, I mean, maybe the fit teams there do have an advantage, but like there's the other TKO team from Houston. They have Mike Urena coaching them, right?
Yeah.
Whatchamacallit, Elite had Jeff from X Factor. I think, Colts helped them out too. That's part of the game,
Yep.
So
I
you
mean,
should buy a bus and shuttle the refs. Tracy and I were driving refs to the airport Monday before the trailer was loaded, before we hooked it on and drove 22 hours straight back to our house.
You think Wayne can get the HK Army RV back up and running for us to the HK Army bus and get it
We're
running?
thinking about driving 2 trucks to Texas on the next one just so we have another car that we don't have to rent out there.
Yeah.
And it's
Um, Well, I think that's. I mean, any closing words, Mike? I think that's pretty much it for
I
questions.
mean,
I don't see
you
any
know,
other
I
ones.
think paintball is in a good place right now. It's crazy with the economy being in a tough spot, right? There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. Paintball's still getting stronger and stronger. You know, I think, we're always open to listening and learning. I would love to put, soda in the water fountains at high school, but I don't know if we can do that financially. But, for us, we're always willing to hear what you guys have to say. Can't guarantee everything's going to be executed how you want it, but we appreciate the support. We appreciate the support in Texas. Like, we're not trying to take over the world. We're just trying to make good paintball events that people get some money. Money is a big factor for people. People want to get money. We're paying money, right? So doing the best we can. We're all open for it. And, especially like in Texas, especially, right? Like, there's a lot of Texas has more of a system built of the ladder, right? From D2 to semi-pro to pro, all the way up, where WC doesn't really have that. Probably because there's not a lot of NXL events out this way. We had Vegas, but before that, we didn't have any events out here. So our teams tend to just stay out here. But for the teams that are moving up the ladder, we're stoked for you. We don't want to take over the world. We just want to make a good quality event, right? We're never going to be the BMW or the Mercedes. We're the Ford and the Chevy. So that's kind of our goal, from myself, from Tracy, Ryan, all of us. Every league, there's countless hours behind the scenes that takes up our lives, you know what I mean? And we're happy to be doing it. Just know that every person here, I truly believe, is doing it for all the right reasons.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah, man, I appreciate everybody out there supporting us. Like, it's the most humbling thing I've ever had in paintball. For the people that don't stay for the award ceremony, like, the support I get as a promoter and doing these events, it means way more to me than, I had offers this year to go coach, right? Multiple offers. I mean, Ryan, you've seen some of them. Just wasn't that important to me anymore. It's like running the UFC, right? I get to see a lot of great fights, and I get to get a really good seat for some great fights, some great matches of paintball, and that's what we all do this for. So stoked to be here. The future looks bright on our side of the fence, and we look forward to seeing everybody in Texas in the next week. We will pick up on our Instagram or Facebook what we're going to do with that. If we want to move the Mercy, just leave it as a Mercy, especially in 4 and 5, but with an overtime, and exactly how we're going to structure that. I'm just a big guy on, like, if we're going to do something, it needs to be said before we start the tournament, and then it's got to be executed all the way through, right? And it has to be like a law in our society. It's got to be something that's enforceable and sensible, both sides, right? So if that's what we're going to do, we will pick that back up and get it going. And then on WC, like I said, 10 bands, I was talking with some of the coaches, our captains of our premier teams. I was talking to old J-Mac from what is they call Grind City, aka Mutiny, just getting perspective. So premier teams, I'm always here to hear it from you, but we're going to go to 10 grand at the next event for first place. So hopefully we can get it spicier and spicier. I'm sure the cheat meter is just going to go up with that, but it is what it is, right? So any words for the media guys? I appreciate it, man. If we want to touch on that really quickly, it's been contentious with me and some of the media guys, not all of them. I really appreciate the media guys, all of them. But, individually, you all know who you are that help promote our league. We appreciate that, man. It's got to be a two-way street. You know what I mean? And it really has been. Here's my issue that I have. You come shoot at my event for free. Awesome. Let's promote you. Awesome. We need a photo or two to show off a 14-year-old kid running under the X, playing paintball, having fun. We want to show how goofy paintball can be and still be cool. But somebody wants $300 for that photo. That's just simply that's okay. We're just going to need to charge you guys $300 to pay you the $300 back. I could understand if we're selling prints of people's media or using it to put money in our pocket. Man, no paintball leagues right now are making money. Like, I would make far more money if I just stayed home and ran my other businesses. I mean, Ryan truly sees the numbers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for us, that was our only thing. But we truly appreciate the media, right? Like, it totally, Sheldon, you absolutely do. And there were some words between us before it started. You've helped us a ton. We appreciate it. We want to see the 3-man young gun team, the Dallas Meanies, right? Cold-blooded Predators, the Shut Up We're Trying, all those beginner teams. We love the media helping to show people it isn't that scary. I think when you say USXBL or MSXL or MVPS, all these great leagues that we have around, it kind of comes with a stigma of like, man, these dudes are really like they're tough up there, you know? But when you see beginner 3-man teams out there looking extra rookie, it's good, right? People can be like, well, I can play that guy, right? I can
Yeah,
do that. So that's
yeah.
our only thing, but we totally appreciate it. I mean, I think at WC we set up a 20 by 20 tent that was used by practically nobody. Good job, Ryan.
Location, 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 right?
But hopefully for USXBL, the next one at Fit, we're going to try to set up something, maybe a couple of our 10 by 10s or
Mhm.
whatever, something for the media to be able to have power in, download if they need some, whatever it is they need. So we're always open to trying to help, and we appreciate everybody, man. All the
Yeah,
players truly.
yeah, and then big shout out, to our the our other big media partners, right, that do help us out. Adon with AFG Filming, Andrew Harris, who does our reels and our videos as editing. Big shout out to Robert Jordan, right, who puts time in for commentating and just, I mean, he's there for anything that we need for Texas, right? Like being the liaison. And yeah, just everybody who collaborates. It's what I always tell media guys when we're at the events, right? Is listen, man, you got to help us out, right? Like if we could pay you if we could pay you crazy money, we would, right? But when we can't, we want you to help us out. We want you to help the league grow so that you can continue to grow also. Because if we start losing teams, you're going to start losing teams, and that's
Well, and
not going
here's
to be
the crazy
beneficial for
thing, though.
anybody.
For any regional league, if they grow,
Yeah,
that doesn't mean we make more money or
yeah,
make any money. Because
yeah,
actually, if you let's say you run an event at X Factor with 2 fields
yeah,
and you have the Titan guys and a bunch of local guys that can help ref that, that's great. But when you go to a third field, now we have to fly 8 to 10 referees in. And like I said, flights, $200-300 a piece, hotel rooms, 150 a room in the summer plus taxes. We actually, any league becomes less profitable as they get larger because it's just the scale economy. It doesn't make sense to do it. But for us, we want to get larger because it helps actually grow paintball. And that really is what we all need to try to do, right? Like paintball's so fun. And you have your day, right? And teams, you get to win a tournament finally, and you get, I mean, making it through, especially like D4, D5, and D6, it's like March Madness, right? You got to make it through so many teams to win an event. So many things have to go right.
yeah.
And then it happens. And then when it does happen, it's a pretty special moment for all of us, right? We actually get to the top of the mountain.
Yep.
And that's kind of what we're trying to do here. So we appreciate it, man. Media has done a great job. I truly am thankful. And all the teams out there. And like Ryan was saying, whether it's Big Daddy or all the people that help out, myself, Ryan, and Tracy are definitely the faces, Colin and the paint truck, Abel, my other son that's out there helping, you know what I mean? But there are so many people that help that are probably just in every league, right? Are faceless and not really known. And we appreciate everybody because every single person puts effort into making this happen. Whether, last event at Fit, it's getting windy on Sunday. Trenton Mason's up there putting up a clear wind block for us just so
Yeah,
we can not have the wind buffeting into our mics and all that. So everybody, not, they, Anon and all the guys, our media guys on our side that help, that we pay a little bit of money and put far more effort than we pay them for into it. We appreciate everybody, man.
yeah, definitely. All right, I'm gonna go down the quick list of sponsors here, and then we'll wrap this up here. Big shout out to GI Sports, right? Vulcan Paintball, Violence, Max, and these are between USXBL and WC. Andrew Lopez Law, Matrix Gear, huge one out in Cali and in Texas. Weapons, Committed Paintball, Lone Wolf Paintball, Gunfighter, Desert Action Sports, the Hydra Boys, Uno's Delicious Jerky. It wasn't dry the last time I had it, so we're great jerky. Planos Tortilla Factory out there with Mark, Evil, Chanel with Titans Legal, and yeah, big shout out to all those guys who help us with the stream and with the league for things that we need.
Definitely. I appreciate everybody. And, again, if there's anybody that's got anything for me, please feel free to reach out to me. We appreciate it. We're definitely getting into event time right now, and it's going to get competitive here the next couple weeks, and I'm excited for it, man. I just super stoked with it. So thank you, everybody out there, from myself, Tracy, our whole family here in our home, to everybody out there. look forward to seeing everyone. And even if you're not playing the event, just come out and hang out and be part of the paintball community, right? Like, please be part of it. So
right.
Appreciate everybody. Everybody have a good night.
Have a good night, guys. Play a little video out here.
Yeah, put a foot pedal, I'm a con. 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 Yeah, all for the foot to the floor with a pedal, I'm a whip that, get it, I'm gone. Find me north of the country, miles off where I'm from. Digging up heat, trying to elevate and change what level I'm on. Stay diverse, cause most of the verses made have already been done. Extelligence back with the heat and the track for the gang. Been away, but I shell that beat and I'm back with a bang. Remix lucid fam, then I'm back to Milan. Switch up quick, don't lose it, give me them facts, run a fact to the plan. Wanna make this quick, no mobo, never done brisk. They told me I'd never be nothing, but the boy keep coming and cooking up hits. I share like I'm at the rest, on point like part of the script. I'ma make this whole stick, nobody's safe when I flip this switch.